Hello and welcome to Shades and Justice podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Evelyn Hill. Hey, you can always catch me at www.drevelynhill.net. Today, I'm so excited. We have a wonderful guest, Miss Erica, and I'm going to let her pronounce her last name so I won't crucify it. But she is the new executive director at El Centro, located here in beautiful Wyandotte County. Miss Erica, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you are so very welcome. Would you share with us your last name
Mhm.
and then just talk to us a little bit about you and how you got to El Centro, including your parents and all of that?
All that good background. Yes,
Yeah.
Erica Andrade. And so I have been in Wyandotte County since I was 15 years old. So I'm not an original dot, but I have been here, I feel, long enough that much longer than anywhere else in my life. So it does feel like home. Um,
Yes.
Originally, I was born in Texas, the Rio Grande Valley, to be more specific, which is, way at the very bottom. It's a border town.
Yes.
My mom is immigrated from Mexico when she was in her 20s, and so still
Oh.
have a lot of family in central Mexico. It's called Guanajuato, that kind of area. I have a
Mm-hmm.
sister that still lives in Mexico and her family, and I have aunts and uncles as well, living in both Mexico and then also in Arizona. But
Oh.
here in Kansas City, it's myself, my brother, and my sister. And
Okay.
so yeah, graduated from Harmon High School. While I was at Harmon, that's kind of how I originally learned about El Centro, actually, was in high
Mhm.
school because I volunteered. I volunteered for the
Oh,
organization. Yeah.
yes,
I
yes.
volunteered for the organization when I was in high school, mostly with the kids from the academy and the after school program. We I make a funny story a lot of times when I'm doing tours out there at the academy. I said, "You see these bushes? I helped plant these bushes because that was one of our projects. That was one of our activities when we were in high school. We planted
Yeah.
some bushes and things like that. And so I've known of El Centro pretty much the whole time that I've been here in Kansas City, in one
Wow.
way or another."
That's awesome. And so your parents still live in Texas.
No, my mom passed a few years back during the pandemic,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Okay.
And so just it's just me and my brothers and sisters now, as far as my immediate
Okay.
family.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry to hear about your mother. Okay.
yeah.
Well, so after you graduated from
Mhm.
Harmon High School and you got done planting bushes, uh, how did you get to this point in your career? What are some of the other areas that you explored as you were
Mhm.
growing up?
Sure. So yeah, after high school graduation, moved to Lawrence, went to my undergrad over there. Latin American Studies was my degree. My full
Oh,
intention at the time was that I was going to be a professor. I was hoping to get my master's in Chicano studies, and then come back and just kind of like teach, be a professor.
wow.
That was kind of the plan, the master plan, but things don't always work out that way. There was at the time a position came open at El Centro, and I was like, oh, that's perfect. That's, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do
Hmm.
with my life. I know I wanted to work with community. I wanted to work in community, and for me, the Latino community, it's very close to my
Hmm.
heart. Working
Hmm.
particularly with Spanish-speaking immigrant communities, very important because of my mom's experience and
Yes.
having experienced that with her and seeing her kind of having to navigate that world in a different language. And from very young on, since we were little, we always have to act as her interpreters and advocates for pretty much anything she had to get done. And I know how important it is to have that kind of
Hmm.
support system when you feel a little isolated in communities. And so it was just, I knew that that's where I wanted to work eventually. I didn't know that it was going to happen right after college, after undergrad. And so like a lot of people that get sucked into what we call getting sucked into
Yes.
nonprofits, once you get in, you never quite leave. And my first job at El Centro was actually a student teacher coordinator, which is after school
Hmm.
tutoring. I kind of supervised the after
Oh.
school tutoring program we had at that time. I did
Hmm.
that not very long, actually. I think I only did that position for maybe 6 months, and I quickly moved up to be the GED case manager for the Spanish GED program
Oh.
that we we kind of ran at that moment in time. And again, I was in that position probably only another 6 months. And then within a year of starting at El Centro, I was the adult education program kind of manager. And so I oversaw all of the adult education programming for El Centro, which was the Spanish GED, the ESL classes, the citizenship classes, and I kind of ran that for a good solid 10 years doing that work
Oh
for El Centro.
my, wow.
Yeah,
I didn't realize you really just grew up at El Centro
yeah,
once
yeah.
you passed college. Oh my
Yeah, at this
goodness.
point, I've been here at El Centro for 22 and a half years total.
22 and
Yes.
a half years.
Yep. Yes.
Oh wow. So you really did grow up there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
my goodness. That is amazing. So when you got to this next level, what all occurred? What all
Get
happened that,
me. Yeah.
yeah.
So El Centro used to be one of the, through the years, El Centro has kind of shifted and changed and been flexible and adaptable to the community needs. One of the things, programs that we had is that we used to do home rehab and home building and helping individuals get homes. But when 2008 and the market situation happened, there were some shifts and things that happened within El Centro. At that point, El Centro kind of redid a restructuring, refocusing, and we got out, we weren't going to be doing adult education. So I was kind of at a crossroads in my career where they were like, well, we're not doing that anymore, but we really noticed that a big need for the Latino community that we're serving was health access needs. So they were
Yes.
really coming to a front. And they were like, we've never had a health navigation program. We would like to start one. Do you want to go get certified? And then start the program. And I said, absolutely. Well, that kind of started my trajectory, getting that training and kind of developing a program from the ground up really kind of was like that little bug that bit me. And after that, I just love that. I love program development, program evaluation, program design. I loved it. I was able to grow the program. I started grant writing just because I felt that that would be a
Oh,
better, I just kind of
yes.
started doing it myself with my program and I was able to make that project really successful. And so I was like, I think I can do this for other programs at El Centro. So
Yes.
at the time, Irene was now our CEO at El Centro. So I came to her and I just had like I said, it's tiny to have a come to Jesus talk with you. And I want to know, what do I need to do to be chief program officer? I wanted to be CBO. I was very clear with her. This is what I want. What do I need to do to
Okay.
do that? And she
Yes.
said, okay, that's simple enough. First step, you have to go back and get your master's. And I said, done. So I enrolled and I got my master's from UMKC through the executive MPA program a couple
Oh
of years back.
my. Well, congratulations. Wow.
And so the plan had always been the trajectory had always been going through the program. It's a cohorted program, so it's people that already have a lot of management experience. They go through executive MPA, so it's very much tailored, and it's 7 sessions. So once you start, you can come out. It's you go summer, spring, fall, winter until you're done. And
Yes.
so the idea was that when I finished and I would transition into CPO, but within a year I had already transitioned into CPO. And so finished off my master's while I was already CPO. And that really gave me that next level of being able to work with all of the programs at El Centro and help them develop and implement outcomes and long-term outcomes and things like that. Just giving it more of that. We went through our 3-year change process at El Centro, which I handled. I kind of supervised that whole transition. So it was really great way to work with Irene in a way that I think was doing it very intentionally, knowing that she had already her kind of next step in mind, and kind of
Yes.
laying the groundwork for her transition off. And then she was very honest with me and said, the reason that I was confident in telling you this is what you need to do for that position is because it was not just about that position, it was about my position when I leave. And so I wasn't ready for
Wow.
that in the beginning. I was like, I don't want to be executive director. I just wanted to be chief program officer. I was perfectly happy just being program. I just want to develop programs. But she's like, well, she goes, you got to ask yourself one important question. If it's not you, it's going to be somebody else. So do you want it to be
Okay.
you? Or do you want it to be somebody else? And you've spent all this time developing your dreams and driving your mission forward with El Centro. Are you going to be just as comfortable with somebody that's not me? And then taking their lead. And I was like, oh, never mind. I changed my mind. I do want it. I do want it. And so that's kind of how I ended up in this position. Long, long kind of story, but that's really how it ended. It's just that putting all these many years and effort and just really believing in the mission of what we do and the work that we do to
Mhm,
the core of me and making this be
mhm,
my life's work. It was obviously, it was
mhm,
honestly at the end of the day, it was an easy decision, wanting to make
mhm,
sure that I continue kind of that vision that I've had of
uh-huh,
who we are and who we serve and what our purpose is here for the
mhm.
work that we're doing.
That that is an amazing story for two reasons. Number one, your preparation, not even knowing that you were preparing to be the
Mhm.
CEO. But the other piece was that your predecessor
Mm.
was willing to mentor you and help you get to where you wasn't even thinking you was going.
Right.
And for you to have that kind of relationship, that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. So thank you for sharing that story. Now, you serve a very specific population in
Mhm.
Wyandotte County. Could you tell us some of the statistics around the population El
Mhm.
Centro serves?
Yeah, definitely. So, El Centro primarily has, historically we're a Latino-led, Latino serving organization. Very proud of
Mhm,
that. We're also, as you said, what makes us really unique, I think, in this area is that we're also a Spanish first organization. And what that
mhm,
means to us is that we know very intentionally that the individuals that we serve primarily are individuals that are Spanish speaking as their primary language. That doesn't mean
mhm,
that they only speak Spanish, but that is like the language that they chose or that they decide to primarily live in. And so that's
mhm,
very important to us. So that means that everything that we do, from the design of our programs to our communication tactics to the flyers that we develop, everything, all the curriculums that we use, everything is designed in Spanish. It's not designed in
wow,
English and then translated. It's actually designed in Spanish with that in mind. And I think that makes it
wow.
very unique in this kind of
Mhm,
space, because we
mhm,
know, again, we know the population we're working with. Um,
yes.
and so I think that that's something that's really important for us. And then especially in Wyandotte County, somewhere in Wyandotte County, where it is one of those unique counties in the country, not just Kansas, in the country really, where
Yeah.
there is no majority. And it has a very large Latino population. I mean, over 30%. When we look at the kiddos at the school district, at this point, we're getting close to 60% of the children are
Wow.
Latino in the
Yes.
school district here in
Yes.
Wyandotte.
Yes. Mhm,
And so we understand, we're very familiar with that kind of concept of these families that are navigating this new arena where sometimes their
mhm,
children are going to school. We're hoping that they retain the language and the culture. That we want to value that piece of it. Um,
mhm,
at the same time that they're incorporating into, this American kind of system of schooling, of everything in their lives. So we're kind of
mhm,
just there to provide kind of that link and the bridge between us, the community, and all the other resources and things that there are in our communities, from
mhm.
banking to, your healthcare to
Yes.
owning a home. And so those are kind of the things that El Centro does, is that we really do see ourselves as that link, as that bridge for our
Mhm,
communities to really feel like they're at home here at this place that they've chosen to
mhm.
call their home.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And your offices are absolutely beautiful. It doesn't look secondhand or just boxed and thrown together. It's a
Yes.
beautiful facility, state of the art,
Hmm.
everything from what I could see. And
Hmm.
your even when you walk in the door, the ladies can speak both Spanish and English. And
Hmm.
so it's just a
Yes.
very comforting Latino um, uh, base decorations and everything. It's
Hmm.
absolutely beautiful. So I
Hmm.
commend you
Thank
for
you. Appreciate that.
just how beautiful your offices are.
Yeah.
Now, since you have a long tenure at El
Mhm.
Centro, what has been some of the most exciting things that you all have experienced that you've seen changes in
Mhm.
the community? What have been some exciting things happening?
Oh, all kinds of things, especially here in Wyandotte. We also have our location in Olathe now. We bought a building
Okay.
and we kind of put down roots. We've been in Johnson County for over 20 years, but it was always kind of
Wow.
renting different spaces. Now that we have our own space over there, our idea
Mhm.
is that really we're invested in the communities where we're located. And just like we want our communities, our clients to be invested in the communities that they live
Right.
in. And that means we want them to have the opportunity to own homes, start businesses,
Mhm.
you know, really engage advocacy wise, you know, being engaged
Yes.
voters and be engaged community members. I think all of those things are really important. That's probably one of the changes that we're super excited. I mean, if you want a
Mhm.
visual representation of what this looks like in Wyandotte, just go down Central Avenue. I mean, what,
That's
a
true.
decade ago or so,
Absolutely.
it was
Yes.
ghost town. I mean, there was not that much there. And so you see these little small businesses popping up and they're building to the economy, they're building to the culture really of
Yes.
Wyandotte County to make it
Yes.
diverse and friendly and happy, and you know, the music and the
Mhm.
food and then the activities, like the different events now that have come, you know, grown from little events like the Day of the Dead, Central Avenue, the parade, which is now huge, and it brings in like 10,000 visitors during that week.
Yes.
Like these are
Yes.
things that Wyandotte is now hopefully going to be known for, as being this really diverse, rich, culturally diverse community. That's the same thing that we want to see in Johnson County for families that are moving to Johnson County, that they have also a place where they feel like their culture and their hard work and the contributions that they're making are being validated and
Mhm.
acknowledged. I think that that's all really important.
Mhm. Wow. And I know that you all do a variety of things that you had
Mhm.
mentioned earlier, but for the kids, can you share some of the
Sure.
things you do specifically for the kids?
Sure. So one of our, we call our, we say El Centro has four main pillars. We have our early
Okay.
education, our community health, our economic empowerment, and then our advocacy engagement. Our
Mhm.
early education, we represent that through our Academy for Children. We do have a dual language preschool, year-round, nationally recognized preschool. And so for us, that again, it's about that intentionality between language. And so our children, the children that come to our Academy for Children for their preschool education,
Mhm.
they are going to be getting in for education, both English and Spanish. So it's not translated, it's not bilingual. They actually have such certain lesson plans that are completely done in Spanish, and some of them are just going to be done in English. So it starts that
Wow.
language
Okay.
immersion from a very young age. For those children
Mhm.
that come in already speaking Spanish at home, it's about them keeping that language, not losing
Mhm.
it, keeping that language through their schooling. And then for for those children that only speak English in the home, is to be exposed to that second language early on and see the value
Yes.
of that.
Yes.
And so we think that's very important. We also, although some of our programs have changed, we no longer have that program that I started with, students as teachers and things like that.
Uh-huh.
We do work very closely with the school districts,
Mhm.
more than anything, supporting the families, supporting the moms
Yes.
and dads and the grandmas and aunties that are trying to support their children. But we know
Mhm.
that really having that core support at home is going to be that thing that impacts the children as they go through their educational career. We think that's really important, making sure that parents have all the information about, are you preparing for college? Having the conversations about going to college.
Yes.
So I think
Yes.
that all of those things, our work are though primarily done with the adults in the family. It's
Mhm.
really done and meant to be holistic for the whole family so that everybody gets kind of that support and that the understanding of the importance of being lifelong learners, whatever
Uh-huh.
that career path might look like.
Mhm. Oh, that's awesome.
Mhm,
I knew of the early ed and
mhm,
knew a little bit about your work with the school district, but thank you for clearing all that up. That is
mhm,
absolutely phenomenal. Where the kids, if that's already their home language, they
mhm,
just tap right into that, and it's like putting a fish in water so they could just
mhm,
swim. So that
mhm,
is absolutely incredible
mhm.
and awesome. And so you mentioned all the great things that you have seen with families beginning to prosper, get better jobs,
Mhm.
and you being a great support system and advocacy opportunity for families. Wow, that's awesome.
Mhm.
So, what has been some of your greatest challenges?
Yeah.
What is out there that you feel like is a barrier or hindrance to your families?
There's so, I mean, it kind of weaves and changes pattern depending on the season that we're in.
Yes,
I think
yes,
politically, obviously, you know, politically, immigrant families suffer a lot just because
yes,
of messaging and misconceptions and biases
yes.
maybe that are there. I think that's
Mhm.
something that really hurts our families a lot here at that we serve. We notice that a lot of times they will not engage or not be as engaging in the communities and things like that that are happening just because they rather kind of like not make waves. Let's be out in the background. I think that that's something that we see a big challenge with El Centro. For an organization like El Centro, and like most nonprofits, especially in Guanacani, County, we understand that, you know, um, funding is never secured, you know, we're always looking,
Yeah.
we're always got to maintain funding. I think that at this point, as we, you know, head into starting our, ending our 47th year, starting our 48th year of existence, we have a really great reputation, both with our communities, but also with our funding partners, as far as who we are and who we serve, and the work that, with the quality of the work that we do. So that's great to have that. It'd be a lot harder if we were just starting out, but we're pretty
Right.
stable in our community and have a great reputation. But it's still a challenge, you know, funding is always a challenge, and having that sustainable challenge into the future. And then for us, it's always really important that we don't miss what we call mission chasing. So we are who we say we are. We're authentic to that. We're authentic to the people that we serve and the kind of the areas that we work around. And so it's important that that individuals see value in what we're doing for the community, how we're engaging with members of the community, and want to support that work. And so that's I think always important to have as kind of like our foundation, our baseline, and be, you know, making sure that we're true to ourselves as far as who we're supposed to be serving and how we're supposed to be serving individuals, and being of service to individuals, and not for that. Like, you know, where the empowerment comes together. It's we're walking along with and learning from them. Our staff literally looks like the communities that we serve. Like you mentioned, all of our staff that works with clients, they are dual language speakers. They speak English and they speak Spanish, because we know that that's something that we value, and it's really important. So, you know, those have been some of those challenges, is how do we encourage our families to be engaged, to be active, to be good advocates, but at the same time, being understanding of the realities of our world right now, where everything's political, everything's so divided, that just like we're going to have great supporters, we are going to have those that are not going to support the work we do simply because of the people that we serve. And so that's just the reality we have to be cognizant of. So.
Well, I thought you navigated that question very well. You answered it very diplomatically. And I want to dig a little bit deeper into the
Mhm.
advocacy piece that
Uh-huh.
you all do. And I know there are residents here
Mhm.
in Wyandotte County uh, that some are considered immigrants, others refugees.
Mhm.
But in your advocacy piece, just what are some services that
Mhm.
you provide
Sure.
as an advocacy organization?
Yeah, in terms of our advocacy organization, a lot of the work that we do, it's called integrated voter education. So what that means for
Oh,
El Centro, which is the acronym is IVE work. And so for
mhm,
some individuals, you know, something people always think about it like the get out the vote stuff. It's the voter engagement, voter education. Very important. That's like one
yes.
piece. And we know that we need to engage with individuals to talk about the importance of voting and making sure your voice is heard. That's really important. But we
Mhm,
also have another reality here at El Centro, that some of our clients might not be able to be voters because of
yeah,
their immigration status, or et cetera.
yes.
Like there's
Yeah.
so many different nuances and levels to that. Are they refugees? Are you
Mhm,
asylees? Are you new immigrants? So it puts you at different levels. But what we talk about advocacy is, we say advocacy is for everybody, and advocacy is
yeah.
an action. It's not just a thing that you say. It's, you know, you
Oh,
start with the information piece, then you move to the education. First you inform people, then you educate people. Once people are empowered with knowledge, that's something you can't take from them. You can't take it back. Once you inform people, they know. And then once you get to that point, that the last step and the hardest step really to move into is that action step. Now what? It's the now what do you do with this information and
mhm,
this power that you've gained through knowledge. And it's talking about going to your school board meetings, speaking up for your, you know, your medical rights. You know, are you advocating for yourself and maybe your neighbors or your children when it
mhm,
comes to their medical access? Are you going to the commission meetings? Are you talking about the things that matter to you, to your commissioner? If there's
mhm,
issues with sidewalks or safety, you know, what are the things that really matter to you? Noel Central
mhm,
just, Wyandotte County just finished their chip
yes.
assessment piece.
Mhm,
Like those things are important when the county's putting out calls for individuals to participate in listening sessions. They're talking
mhm,
about everybody, and it
right.
doesn't matter what language you speak and what your status is. If you live here, if you're a resident of Wyandotte County, you live in Wyandotte County, then your voice
Mhm,
matters. And that's kind of that's that action piece that we're trying to kind of promote with our communities, that everybody has a seat at the table. Everybody has a right to be heard. Everybody's story is important. Everybody's experience is valid, regardless of what the status is. You know, if you live in Wyandotte, then it matters.
okay. Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. I really also love the fact you use the word empower. You
Mm-hmm,
want to empower others,
mm-hmm,
empower them with education and with knowledge. And I just feel like that is so key in any community.
mm-hmm,
That's the one thing that we have to do is make sure people feel empowered. It's often in different communities, we
mm-hmm,
find people give up because it looks like nothing they do or say, they don't get any attention, they're not
mm-hmm,
heard. But
mm-hmm.
when you empowered, you keep going back, make sure your voice is heard. So
Right.
that is absolutely so important. And I applaud you for the work that you all are doing there. And I'm not going to hold you a whole lot longer, but I would like for you to share just a little bit more of kind of the fairy godmother piece.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you had a fairy godmother and all you had to do was just share what are two or three things you'd like to see El Centro flourish in even
Mm-hmm.
more.
I mean, oh, those, I mean, I could just go down a list. Now, there's so many things that I think that if it was up to me, we had, all the support and all the funding in the world. I
Yes,
mean, I think starting from one of our first programs, the academy that I mentioned, the dual language education preschool, we
yes,
know that preschool is super important. It's like the building block to the rest of your
yes.
life. And if you have a good one, then it's going to kind of start you on a trajectory to be a lifelong learner.
Mhm.
And we would love to be able to open another academy for children in Johnson County.
Okay,
There's such a lack of preschool slots in both counties, and so that would be a really big dream.
okay.
Something that we're working on that's hopefully here going to be, we're going to be able to pilot within the next, if not, 3 to 6 months, is a home buyer program. And that's because we understand that
Oh,
to really make a difference when it comes to that wealth gap and talking about breaking the poverty cycle and building
yes,
generational wealth, we need to empower families to be able to, you can be a homeowner, even in this
yes,
market, and even with the prices of things going up, you could
yes.
still, if
Mhm.
people, if you work hard, you should be able to buy a home. And so
Right.
sometimes it's about not having that knowledge and that information of how to do
Mhm.
that, but navigating individuals to do that. That's a big dream that I have, is to
Uh-huh.
make it easier for families to be able to buy their first home.
Mhm.
And again, sets, it stabilizes those roots. It says those roots. It's also great for the county because we're always talking about we need more taxpayers, right? And how do you get taxpayers?
Right.
You own property, you own homes.
That's right. That's
And
right.
so yeah, so I just kind of see that whole ecosystem of Wyandotte and Johnson County just progressing even more and just becoming richer, both by the people that live in it, but the people that choose to make this home forever,
Mhm.
and kind of setting our next generation up with those kind of ideals that going to school is it's not even a thought. It's just that's what's going to happen, and then I'm going to
Yes,
work, then I'm going to own a
yes,
home,
yes.
and having those be the things that we create for our communities that start changing what we look like in general, as far as reducing poverty and increasing health access and things like that.
Mhm. I like your dreams. I really do. You said you have plenty of money and you don't
Hmm.
have to worry about you got housing, you've
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
early childhood child care education.
Hmm.
That is and that is a need countrywide
Yeah,
in both
exactly.
of those arenas,
Hmm.
both of those arenas. And some don't like to call it affordable housing, so we just call it workforce housing. Doesn't
Hmm.
matter.
Yeah.
It's housing, for
Yeah.
individuals to be housed. So
Yeah.
I like your dreams, and they go
Hmm.
right along with mine. I just feel like we just need these things in place so that everybody can prosper. I really believe that we can do great things together. I just
Hmm.
believe we can. And I think this conversation today is key. I think
Hmm.
people both around our community and around the country need to know that we can work together and get some good stuff happening,
Hmm.
you know, countywide, nationwide, if we're willing to work together. And
Right.
that's what I see you doing. You working together. You make sure that the population that you serve, they get all the resources from everywhere. I love that.
Hmm.
And it's not limited to age. Now, what about this is my last major question. What about violence? Are you
Hmm.
seeing less violence in the Latina population,
Mhm.
especially around, because there's a lot of talk about kids with fentanyl in the school district and all of that,
Mhm.
not even naming any particular population, just
Right.
that it's among the youth. So what are
Right.
you seeing in your population that you
Yeah,
serve?
I think safety is always for parents, especially for parents. I think safety is always a big concern in any community. I think in Wyandotte County, this is something that since I remember going to school, we've had issues when it comes to violence, and now it just seems like because of social media and everything else, everything's just so much more accessible nowadays than if it was
Yeah.
even before.
Hmm.
I'm starting to sound real old there, I know, but it is, it really is. And so it just
Hmm.
makes all of those dangers even more dangerous because
Right.
they're so
Yeah.
easily available. And so this is
Hmm.
always a concern that every time that we have listening sessions and we're talking to parents, I mean, it always comes down to this topic of like, is it safe? How safe is Wyandotte? And also wanting to make sure that we don't, it's such a unique community that at the same time, we don't want to say that this is a problem that's just here, not everywhere else, because the problem exists pretty much everywhere.
Everywhere. Exactly.
And
Yes.
when we hear the stories, unfortunately, we're always talking about, it seems like they always focus on black and brown youths, but that's not the case. We
Yes.
know that it affects all children.
All of
So
them. Yes.
definitely it's something that concerns families. It's something that concerns us, being in
Hmm.
Wyandotte County and having our
Hmm.
offices right here, right downtown.
Yes.
And so this is definitely something that has been an issue, continues to be an issue. I think that the conversations happening regarding being open and honest and trying to engage with families. I know that the school district is trying to do their campaigns where they bring more parent
Yes.
involvement to make
Yes.
sure that parents are having the resources and the ability to talk to their students about what's happening to reduce those things. I think that's going to always be a great thing to have communication.
Hmm.
Where back maybe before we, certain things you don't want to talk about, like, oh, let's not talk about the problem. And I think now they're getting more open with talking about the problem, which is always
Very
a
right.
great first
Hmm.
step, but that's where we're at. I think we're just barely now at step one, and there's so much more that we can do. And the truth of the matter is that youth and people in general, to reduce all violence, we need to have opportunity. If people had
Absolutely.
access to
Yes.
decent housing, good jobs with good pay, and they were
Yes.
like, you know what I mean, then a lot of that problem would be solved with that, because a lot of times individuals use drug and violence as a way of an escape from the issues
Yes.
that are happening in their day to day. So it's got to be a holistic, like the whole community needs to look at the problem, because it's not going to have a one piece answer.
That's so good. Absolutely correct. Uh, well, I thank you. You have been an absolute wonderful guest on today, Miss Erica,
Thank you.
and thank you for just being willing to be on my show. And would you mind just sharing, if people wanted to find out more about El Centro,
Sure.
how would they get in touch with that organization?
Sure, we do have a website that talks about all our different programming and their staff, and it gives you a good way to kind of contact whoever you need. That's at www.elcentroinc, all one word.com. And then also you can follow us on Facebook. We do a lot of our posts for our classes, our resources, our different services are on Facebook as well. And that's at El Centro, kansascity.com too. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you again, Erica. Have a fantastic day.
You
And again, this is Dr. Evelyn Hill at www.drevelynhill.net. Shades Injustice Podcast. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.